Now we're ready to start building. However, before we start building, we may want to set up how the building will build when we use each of these tools. We do that by setting up defaults. If we go up here to the little white wrench, we'll open up the default settings. You determine in the default settings how the building will build, including what types of walls you're going to use, how your floor levels are set up, what your cabinets will look like, what types of doors are you going to use, and windows. You also have default settings for your dimensions, how they look, the size of the text, the type of arrow it's using, as well as text callouts and marker defaults. The defaults are saved in each individual plan, but if you build the same way repeatedly, you may want to start with a blank plan, set up defaults telling each of your building tools how you want to build, and then save it as a template. If I've already set up the defaults for this plan, I'll go ahead and click Done. To save it as a template, you can go to File and down to Templates and Save Plan as Template. Chief will save this automatically in the Documents Chief Architect Premier X8 Data folder in the Templates subfolder. You can name the template whatever you want and save as many templates as you need. We'll call this My Template. And you'll notice here that Chief has already given you many templates that you can work with. They're each set up with a different building style. I'll go ahead and click on Save. When you save any plan into the Templates folder or open a plan from a template, it'll ask you if you want to use this template as your default template. The default template is used when you click on New Plan. If you don't want to use it every time, go ahead and say No. To open a new plan from a specific template, you'll go to File, down to Templates, and New Plan from Template. That'll open up your Templates folder, and you can select the template that you want to use, whether it's one of your own templates or one of Chief Architect's templates. I'll go ahead and open today's traditional. And here I want to say no, I don't want to use today's traditional as my default template. And then, just for demonstration, I'll go ahead and draw some walls, an interior wall. Go ahead and place a couple of doors, and a window, and a cabinet, and maybe a couple of light fixtures. Then I'll take a camera view of this. So as you can see, this template has a specific style. The walls are a taupe color. The doors are paneled and cherry material. The trim is white. The casing around the door is using a specific molding profile. This room has a nice baseboard and a crown molding. The floor is a dark wood. The cabinets that are placed have a gray marble and a 4-inch backsplash. When I used the base cabinet tool, it placed a cabinet of a specific width, a specific depth, with one drawer at the top and a door at the bottom. The light fixtures that you place on a wall or a ceiling or outdoors are also specified in the defaults that you set. The window is a double hung window with divided lights and a nice molding profile for the casing. Again, these are all things that are set up in defaults. I'll go ahead and close this plan, and we'll just open up a new plan again. Now let's go ahead and start designing a building. Before you design a building, when you've opened up a brand new plan, Chief is opening up a specific template. So the first thing that you want to do when you create a new plan is to save it as a project. So we'll go up here to File and down to Save As. When you save as, it'll take you to a browser page where you can place this file wherever you want it. It's recommended that you work on your Chief plans on your local hard drive, not through a network or a flash drive. So here, under Libraries, I'm going to go to Documents. In my Documents folder, I'm going to create a brand new folder. I'm going to call this Chief Plans. Then we'll open that folder, and inside of my Chief Plans folder, I'm going to create a separate folder for each project. So I'll create a new folder again inside of the Chief Plans folder. and I'll just call this New Project. Then open that folder, and here we'll name the file. I'll call this New Project, and click on Save. Now you can see up here in the title bar, the active plan that I've got here is the New Project floor plan. Now I'm going to start my building by drawing out the perimeter walls. You have three different wall type tools here: the straight wall tool, the railing tools, and the curved wall tools. We'll start here with a straight wall. In the straight wall child tools, you have your straight exterior wall, your straight interior wall, your straight foundation wall, a slab footing, a straight pony wall, a straight half wall, and the room divider. We'll start here by using the exterior wall. When you click and drag a wall, the line that you're drawing as you drag your cursor is the exterior side of the main layer of the wall. We'll discuss the main layer a little bit later. For now, I'll go ahead and draw out some walls. As you're drawing the wall, you'll notice your temporary dimension. This allows you to draw your wall to the approximate size you need. But I'm not too worried about making it the exact length that I need. I'm going to be moving my walls so that they're precisely in the right position. Then I'll draw the second wall. Notice the square snap indicator. If I click right on that square, I know that I'm starting my second wall right at the end point of the first wall. Then I'll simply click and drag down to form my second wall. I want this length to be about 4 feet. Now I need to zoom out. You have zoom tools here on the right side of your screen. To zoom out, you can use the Zoom Out tool with the minus sign. However, if you have a 2-button mouse with a roller button on the top of it, you can simply roll forward on your mouse button to zoom in, or backward to zoom out. On a Mac, your mouse might work differently. You may need to roll that backwards to zoom in and forward to zoom out. So I'll zoom out a little bit by rolling backwards on the button on my mouse. And then you can pan. If you go back over to the zoom tools, the button with the little hand is your pan tool. When you activate this, you can click and drag in your screen to move the plan around in the view. Or, if you have that 2-button mouse with a roller button on the top, press the roller button instead of rolling it. Just press it down towards your desk. That will activate the pan tool as well, so that you can pan and zoom and get the plan into the right place. Then we'll go back and reactivate the wall tool. Then I'm going to snap again to the end point of this wall and draw another wall. I want this one to be about 20 feet. Then I'll click and drag straight down, about 25 feet. Again, click and drag straight over. It's prudent to draw your walls in a clockwise direction. That will ensure that the exterior side of the wall is on the exterior side of the building. Let's take a look at that. I want to zoom in to this corner. Another of the zoom tools that we can use is your zoom area tool, or zoom tool, here at the top of this toolbar. If I click and drag a small box around this corner, Chief will fill the screen with what that box has surrounded. Here you can see all of the layers of my wall. The blue section of this wall is indicating the framing layer, or the main layer of the wall. This side of the wall is the exterior side. I then have a layer of sheathing and then a layer of siding. On the inside of the wall, I have a layer of drywall. If I hit my spacebar to let go of my wall tool and then click once on this wall, you can see the edit handles. The edit handles will always show up on the exterior side of the main layer of every wall. If I select my wall tool and click and drag a line, notice where I'm dragging my line. That will be the line that forms the exterior side of the main layer of the wall. And when you snap to an end point of a wall, it's snapping right to the end of the outside of the main layer of the wall. I'll go ahead and delete these two. Now I want to zoom back out and fill my window with what I have on my screen. You have two other zoom tools here. One is fill the window with the building only. When I click on this, Chief will zoom out as far as it needs to go to see all of the walls, or the entire building, filling up your screen. The Fill the Window tool will zoom out as far as it needs to go to see everything that's on your screen. When we create dimensions outside of the building, or even cameras outside of the building, the Fill the Window will zoom out as far as it needs to go to fill the window with everything that's on your screen. Now I'm ready to continue to draw my walls. I'll go back to the Straight Wall tool, and the exterior straight wall is already activated. You can tell by the check mark. I'll start again on the end point of this line and draw another wall about 7'6", and another one about 11'9". Then I'll come up 3 feet and draw over, and notice, just like with the CAD tools, as soon as I am aligned with an adjacent wall, I'm getting the alignment indicator, that blue dotted line, and I'll see the X or intersection snap indicator. Now I've drawn the perimeter of my walls. I'll hit my spacebar to let go of my wall tool. And then we'll take a look at what we've built. First of all, I'm going to simply drag this wall away from the connection here so that I have an opening here. If I don't have this area completely surrounded by walls, Chief is not able to build the room. We'll go to our Camera Tools parent tool. Use the first tool, which is your full camera tool. With this tool, you're going to click where you want to stand with the camera and then drag toward the focal point or towards what you want to see in the view. Chief will generate a 3D view, and as you can see here, I've drawn 2 walls, but there is no floor and there is no ceiling. But if I select this wall, I can edit this in the camera view or in the floor plan view. If I drag this into the corner and snap it to the other wall, Chief will automatically build the entire room, including the floor platform and the ceiling platform. Another thing you'll notice is that I'm in the camera view now, and I have 2 tabs here at the top, one for my camera view and one for my floor plan view. If I click on the floor plan view, it'll take me back to that view, but my camera view is still active. So I can toggle between the two simply by clicking on one of these tabs. Now I'm going to use another one of my view tools so that we can see exactly what we're building. I'll go to the cross-section slider. Then I'm going to use this cutting plane and slide it back so that we can see a cross-section of what we're building. So as you can see here, we have the inside of the wall here, and we have what will be our floor platform down here. The floor itself is built of several layers, just like the wall, and the flat ceiling plane is applied to this room. Now let's take a look at what determines how this room will build. I'll go ahead and close this camera view, and then we'll take a look again at the defaults. There are several critical defaults that you might want to set up even before you start drawing your walls. To start with, we'll go to the Room's defaults. Click on the arrow and then select Normal Room. The Normal Room defaults affect every room in the house and tell Chief how to build the ceiling structure and the floor structure, as well as what ceiling finish to use and floor finish. When Chief builds a room, you can think of it like a box. The bottom of the box is the floor platform. The top of the box is the ceiling platform. Both of these are made of 1 or more layers. Then you have the ceiling finish and the floor finish. The sides of the boxes are the walls, again made of several layers. So we'll start here with the bottom of the box, or the floor structure, and go to the Edit button. In here you can see that my floor structure is made of 2 layers. The bottom layer is the framing layer. This framing layer is set up for 11 7/8 inches depth or height, and the material is using fir framing. The structure type is an I-joist. Before I start building, I may want to determine how I want to frame my floor. For instance, if I want to use 2x12s instead of I-joists, I'll change this to 11.25, click on the drop-down for structural type, and use lumber. Layer number 1 is the layer on the top. It's your floor sheathing or subfloor. Right now it's using OSB horizontal. If you want to select a different material, you can click on Select Material here, and then go to the Library Materials. When you go to the Library Materials, you're opening up a dialog that is looking at exactly what you're looking at here under the Library browser, but it's opening specifically the Materials folder. In the Materials folder, you have several subfolders for different categories. The sheathing panels is one of your subfolders. Inside of the sheathing panels folder, you have other subfolders. For instance, plywood. If I click on the arrow, it'll show me a list of what's in there. If I click on the word plywood on this folder, the preview pane will show me what each of these materials looks like. Here, I'm just going to use plywood and click OK. And then we'll take a look at the floor finish. The floor finish is again made of layers. This one's made of 2 layers. Layer number 1, the top layer, is this light medium plank flooring. Again, if you go to the Select Materials button and go to Library Materials, you can shop for a different material. Going to the Library Materials is kind of like going to Home Depot. You have many different choices, everything from carpet to wood to tile. If you click on Plan Materials is a list of the materials that are already being used in the plan or are set as defaults in the plan. The check mark here indicates that it's being used. If you've changed a material and it's no longer being used, there won't be a check mark. You can purge these unused materials out by clicking on Purge. I'll go ahead and click OK and use the material as it's set up now. Layer number 2 is a foam underlayment. If you prefer not to use one of these layers, you can delete the layer here. Or you can insert a layer with the Insert button. I'll just leave the floor finish as one layer of light medium plank wood and click OK. Then you have the ceiling structure. The ceiling structure is the flat ceiling framing that will be used as long as there is a flat ceiling and not a vaulted ceiling, or as long as there is no second floor above this area. Right now this is set up with 5.5 inch height to allow, for example, 2x6s. Again, you can select a different material. Right now I'm using fir framing. The structure type is using lumber. I'll go ahead and click OK now, and click OK here. The walls that we drew out with the Wall tool are determined under the Wall's default settings. If I select Exterior Wall and click on Edit, or double-click on Exterior Wall, it will open up the Exterior Wall defaults. This determines how the wall is built when you use your exterior straight wall or your exterior curved wall. Under the General panel, this is the total thickness. You can change the width of the thickness of your wall here. However, you might want to be more precise about the way the wall is built and what layer of the wall will be affected by the width change. So we'll go to Wall Types and define how this wall is built. Chief has given us several wall types, including the Siding 6 wall, but it's also given you brick walls, interior walls, glass shower walls, and stucco walls. You can also create your own custom walls. Here I want to change my exterior wall defaults, so we'll select that Siding 6 wall, and I'll click on Define. When you click on Define, it'll open up the wall type definition. The wall type definition allows you to create, delete, and change all of the layers that form your wall. Layer number 1 is always the exterior of the wall. Right now it's using Gray 3 siding. You can also add a fill to this layer. This red angled hatch is what you'll see in the plan view of this wall. You can also determine the thickness of this layer. This layer right now is 1/2 inch. Then it has layer number 2. Underneath the siding it has a house wrap. This house wrap is 0 inches thick, so you don't see it in the plan view. Layer number 3 is our OSB horizontal, or our sheathing, which right now is at 7/16 of an inch. Again, you can change the material by simply clicking right on the name of the material. That'll take you to your Materials folder in the Chief Architect Library browser, and you can select a different material. So let's create our own custom wall. I want to change the siding and the framing. But before I do, I don't want to change Chief Architect's Siding 6 wall. I want to create my own. So I'm going to copy this wall and start with all of these properties. Here I can rename this wall. I'm going to call this Tan Siding 6. And notice that I've used all capital letters here. This is my habit, so that when I click on a drop down to show me a list of what's available, I can tell which are my custom walls and which are the walls the Chief has created, because mine are in all capital letters. Now I'm going to make some changes. I'll select Gray 3 siding And that'll take me to my Select Materials dialog. In here, I'll close the Blues folder and go down to Browns. When I click on the arrow, I'll get the list. When I click on the folder, I'll get the preview pane that shows me what each one of these materials looks like. Here I'll select the tan siding and click OK. Then I want to change the framing. And notice here that the first stud layer is under the main layers category. All of the exterior layers is under exterior layers. Your main layers should always be your framing layers or your structural layers of the wall. You can move layers up or down in their categories by using the Move Up or Move Down buttons over here on the right. I'll click on First Studs at 24 inches on center. When I click on this, again, it'll open up the library browser and open up the folder right where I can find the framing. Here, you'll find several wall stud materials available. These materials are the only materials in the entire program that tell a different part of the program what to do. These materials, First Studs at 16 inches on center or 24, or Steel Studs at 16 or 24, tell the framing tool how to frame the wall. Here I want to use First Studs at 16 inches on center and click OK. Then I want to change the fill color in this wall. So I'll click on the blue tab, go to the Color tab here, and select a different color. You can select any color and lighten or darken it with this bar over here. I'll go ahead and click OK and click OK. Now this is what my wall will look like in plan view. I'll go ahead and click OK here and click OK here. And for the moment, I'll go ahead and click Done and accept the defaults that I've set up so far. Now you'll notice that the existing walls that I've drawn did not change when I changed the defaults. The defaults were set differently when I drew these walls. So I need to change all of these walls to use my now default wall. An easy way to do this is to click and drag a marquee that touches all of the walls. But you want to make sure that your marquee doesn't touch anything else, like the living area label. Now with all of my walls selected, I'll use my Open Object tool at the bottom left-hand side to open the specification dialog for all of the walls at the same time. Here I can go to Wall Types and then change the wall type to the custom wall I've just created. So now all of my existing walls are my custom wall type, and if I use the exterior wall tools, it will draw a wall of the exact same type. We'll go back to the defaults and set up a couple more critical defaults. So we've set up the room's normal room defaults. You can also set up defaults for rooms that are using the kitchen, bath, utility room types, or the deck room type, garage, porch, or slab room type. In the kitchen, bath, and utility room type, the only change you can make here is for the floor finish. All of the other of these defaults are following the normal room defaults. You can tell that they're following that normal room default because the default box is checked in each of these categories. For the floor finish, if I click on the Edit button here, you can see that the kitchen or bathroom type right now is using limestone tile. This material and the layers underneath it will override the normal room defaults. So when you assign a room type, you're not just naming the room, you're bringing with it information about how it will build. The deck room type will automatically build deck framing underneath it. The garage, porch, and slab rooms will remove the floor finish and place a concrete floor underneath it. You can also change how the room labels will display. You can learn more about these settings in additional videos. So critical defaults include first the room's normal room, and then the walls and how the walls will build, including your interior wall. The interior wall is using the wall type Interior 4. If I click on the Define button, I can see how this wall will build, with 1/2 inch of drywall, with First Studs at 16 inches on center, with a 3.5 inch thickness, and again another 1/2 inch drywall layer. Something to be aware of is even for interior walls, Chief sees one side of the wall as the exterior side, or primary side of the wall. Layer number 1 is always the exterior side. The next critical default will be the floor defaults. If I double-click on Floor Defaults, this will open up the Floor 1 defaults. This is the first floor level The critical part of this default is to set the ceiling heights. You may have one or more rooms that have a different ceiling height than the rest of the first floor level. So here you want to make this the most typical ceiling height. Right now the ceiling height is set for 109 1/8 inches. And you'll notice here that ceiling B and rough ceiling E are the same. This will only be true on the first floor level. You have two areas here. You have absolute elevations and you have relative heights. The difference is that absolute elevations are all relative to first floor level 0. That is absolute 0. So the ceiling height on the first floor level is 109 1/8 inches. Relative heights are relative to the floor level you're on. So on the first floor, the relative height ceiling height is at 109 1/8 inches as well. However, the height relative to the floor you're on the second floor is 97 1/8 inches. However, the absolute elevation is 218 7/8 of an inch, because that's the distance between first floor absolute 0 and the second floor ceiling. So in the floor defaults, it's a good idea to change your heights under relative heights, regardless of the floor level you're on. There are other floor-wide options in the first floor level defaults, including building a flat ceiling and a roof over it, and adding moldings, like base molding, chair rail, and crown moldings, and changing the materials assigned to the moldings. You can learn more about these options in additional videos. For now, we'll leave our floor defaults as they are and click OK. The next critical defaults are your dimension defaults. The dimension defaults set up how the dimensions will look in this plan. Under dimension defaults, Chief has given us several saved dimension defaults. If I click on the Edit button for the 1/4 inch scale dimension defaults, you can see that we have settings for the line separation, the format that your dimensions are using, what objects the dimension tool will locate, as well as what the extension lines will look like, and the arrows. Also, the text style. Right now, the dimension defaults are using a text style called 1/4 inch text style. If I click on the Define button, and then click on the Edit button, you can see what font this is using and the size of the font. You can make changes to the existing font styles or create your own. You can also create your own saved dimension defaults. We'll talk more about that later in our design process. You can learn more about the dimension defaults by going to your online training videos. The next critical default is the framing defaults. In the framing defaults, you can determine the width of each of the framing members and the spacing. In the normal room defaults, I changed my floor joist to be 2x lumber, so here I'll change the joist width to 1.5 inches. Then you can determine the spacing. You can also determine the width and the type of rim joist. You'll set up the floor framing defaults under the Foundation panel. You're setting up the defaults for the framing above you. If I click on First Floor, you can see that I can set up the defaults for how the ceiling above the first floor will frame, or the subfloor if there's a second floor above it. Again, I'm going to change this to 1.5 inches for lumber. You can also determine how the walls will frame. Right now this is using the wall framing material, the first studs at 16 inches on center, as defined in the wall type definition that we've created. You can also determine the number of top plates, the top plate thickness, the number of bottom plates, and the bottom plate thickness. There are many other settings for your framing in here. You can learn more about these settings in additional videos. For now, we'll click OK. There are many other defaults to set up. The ones we've set so far are what would be considered the critical defaults, how the building will build initially. You also have defaults that will be used when using your cabinet tools, your door tools, and your window tools. But for now, we'll accept these defaults and click on Done.